Mike's in the bag picking teeth from his skull and playing with his tongue. He's all sick and everything.
This is Kyle Hooper. In 2011, he was arrested as a suspect in the murder of Seth Jackson. But he wasn't alone. 5 teenagers had tortured and killed their former friend in a cabin in the woods. And it was Seth's 15-year-old ex-girlfriend, Amber Wright, who lured him to his death.
You mean people are gonna hate us for this?
I hate my life.
This is our life now.
Oh my God, man.
Notice how they're all at the police station crying for themselves? They're not sad for Seth or for how many people they've hurt. They're just sad that their freedom and image are over. Yep, it's a truly sickening case. It's tough enough when someone dies at the hands of another person, but when a 15-year-old boy is slaughtered by teens he trusted, it's truly heartbreaking. Trigger warning, we'll be discussing the themes of illegal substances, extreme violence, and tragic death. If that's not something you can handle, this is your chance to turn back. Otherwise, let's dive into the story of Seth Jackson and his blood-chilling death. Today's story begins with Seth Jackson. He was born in January 1996 in Bellevue, Florida, to Sonia and Scott. His parents and his 2 brothers described him as a kind soul and energetic, friendly person who dreamed of becoming a UFC fighter. Seth loved animals, 4-wheeling with his family and hanging out with his friends. But as he was growing up, he was interested in more than just friends. During high school, Seth started dating Amber Wright. She was the same age as him, and they seemed to have the same interests, at least at first. But as many high school relationships go, the two started fighting and grew apart in just around 3 months. In March 2011, it was all said and done for Seth, so he broke up with Amber. But this didn't sit well with her at all. First, they began a public feud on Facebook. Amber kept bothering Seth, so he kept writing to her to stop contacting him. Seth, Amber, if you would go back and read some of the shit I wrote, I said I was done with you, and you should be done with me. We both need to just let all this shit go. Yeah, we split. Yeah, it hurt, but I'm over this dumb shit with me and you. And I just ain't going to let Mike have his cake and eat it too. Amber, how are you done with it when you continuously write shit about me, talk shit about me, hate on me? So learn the definition of done. What was that about Mike? Yeah, there was a third person involved. Amber was very close to an 18-year-old boy, Mike Bargo. As you can see from his pictures, he was quite different from Seth. He was overly confident, aggressive, and liked to indulge in narcotics. Seth had a feeling Amber was cheating on him with Mike, and that contributed to his decision to break up with her. But Amber never admitted to this. However, once they did break up, Amber started dating Mike publicly. This angered Seth even more. He started calling Amber terrible names online. Angered herself, she told Mike that Seth was abusive to her. That's when he started thinking out loud about killing Seth. Sadly, Mike wasn't the only one with bad intentions in the group. At the time, Mike lived with Charlie Eli, a friend of Amber's, Kyle Hooper, Amber's half-brother, and Justin Soto, their 20-year-old friend. Mike and Kyle were renting out rooms in Charlie's home. Kyle was so angry with Seth. Not only he believed he'd been violent towards his sister, but he was also in a strange love triangle with him. Kyle was dating a girl called Alyssa, and one day he found out Alyssa had slept with Seth.
I really hated Seth. And there was time, because my ex-girlfriend, I found him in the bed with my ex-girlfriend, and I really didn't like that, and I loved her.
Imagine what happens when 2 angry boys live together and spend their evenings trash-talking their enemies. Enter Amber. On a Sunday night, on April 17th, 2011, Amber texted Seth. They'd broken up almost a month ago, but she claimed she wanted to talk things over. Hey, can you talk? You said you wanted to talk. Well, I kinda need to talk to you about us working things out. What do you mean? Can you please call me, like now? Yeah, sure. Hey, my friend Charlie is coming with. I've been telling her everything between me and you, and she's coming because I need her to help me through this. Is that okay? But don't tell anyone what's going on because I want to make sure we can work things out before anyone knows. Amber, if you have me jumped, I will never give you the time of day. Did you notice how Seth was already on guard about meeting Amber? Why did she tell him not to tell anyone? Something was off, and he knew this. Especially after all the public online drama, it seemed weird that Amber suddenly wanted to get back together with Seth. And why would she? She was dating Mike anyway. Sadly, that night, Seth walked over to Charlie's forest house to meet with Amber. That was the brutal and tragic end for 15-year-old Seth Jackson. On April 18th, 2011, Seth's parents were panicking. They hadn't heard from their son for almost 24 hours, and this was not like him. He was only 15. He lived with his family, and they were all very close. The Jacksons knew something was very wrong when they decided to contact the authorities. But someone else had already spoken. Kyle, Amber's half-brother, had told their mother some details about the night before. So Kyle and Amber's mother notified the authorities, and all the teens were arrested. Amber, Charlie, Kyle, and Justin were brought to the police station that day. Well, everyone but Mike, who was already on the run. The interrogation lasted for 5 hours, and it was what brought the case to an end. The teens were interrogated separately. The detectives were hoping to hunt for inconsistencies between their stories. Once they noticed someone is lying, they can reveal their dishonesty and press them to tell the truth. But their initial attitude was pretty disgusting.
Alright, so what's the issue?
Initially, Justin acted like he didn't know anything about anything, even though he lived at Charlie's house, and the detective knew this. So she started asking him about his tattoos and led him to the mushroom on his leg.
Yeah, this is my last one. I have a mushroom right here.
Oh, that's a new one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are all the scratches about?
I was walking through the woods and some vines got a hold of it, and like 3 or 4 vines wrapped around my leg, and I went to go walk in it.
When the detective pushed Justin toward the real reason he was there, he kept saying he didn't care as he was innocent. But she pointed out that he said he was nervous about being at a police station, so she knew he was lying. Finally, he started opening up.
They said an incident happened.
Okay. With who?
I guess freaking something about some kid that I don't even know who the hell he is. And
Yeah, you do. Who is he?
his name's Seth or something like that. And supposedly, I guess he got shot or whatever.
He also pointed the detective toward the girls, Amber and Charlie. He said they were the ones who invited Seth to talk some things over. So it was because of them that he ended up at Charlie's house. Meanwhile, the girls weren't very cooperative, but Charlie was the first to crack under the detective's many questions.
Okay, Sunday night, Sunday night, Amber and I walked up because her boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend, was Seth, and they wanted to work things out, so we met him up.
Amber, who was 15 at the time, was interrogated next to her mother. Needless to say, she acted innocent and compliant, but in reality, she wasn't giving a lot of real information.
Well, me and him were already talking on the phone.
Me and him.
Seth.
Okay, you and Seth. Did Seth call you or did you call Seth?
Well, he had called me a couple days before that and I didn't answer.
Okay.
So I called him that night.
Amber also lied to the detective about Seth being abusive to her.
How was your relationship with him?
Not the best.
Tell me why you say not the best.
We'd always fight. He'd always hit me and cheat on me and all that.
So he was physically abusive to you?
Yes,
If Seth had been abusive to Amber, why did she contact him to make up? She told the detective she wanted to be friends with him again, so they met up and chatted for half an hour. Then, according to the girls, Seth started arguing with his mom through text, left, and then came back at Charlie's house an hour later.
Did Seth call you before he came down?
No, ma'am.
So he just showed up an hour later?
Yeah.
When you came back, did you talk to your brother or Michael about what Seth had said or that you guys had had a conversation? Did they know?
No, they didn't know what we talked about.
Amber then said that Seth entered the house and sat on a chair. Then Kyle hit him with a large stick.
Me and her sitting by each other on the couch, and out of nowhere, Kyle just gets up and hits him.
Both girls said they ran away from the living room and hid in the bedroom. That way, they acted like they weren't even a witness to the attack.
And where was
And
he at?
Kyle said, "Get the fuck out." And he went out that way, and we heard Mike's door hit something, and Mike came out, and we heard gunshots.
The next morning, when Amber and Charlie came out of their room, the whole house smelled like bleach.
I had a bottle of bleach on the counter, but that's not there.
So you had bleach and it's gone now?
And Mike came into the room and he said, I swear if you guys open your mouth about anything about last night, I'm gonna come after you guys.
But the first inconsistency became clear when the girls talked about Mike. Charlie said Mike left early in the morning, while Amber said he stayed in his room all day. Meanwhile, the detective got Justin to open up about a potential motive for Seth's murder.
I don't know, that's pretty much it. I guess he had some problems with some other kid, and
What kind of problems?
well, I think his name is Mike, actually.
I knew you would remember. I had faith in you. When did you
It was
first meet
like-
Mike?
Oh, I met him like 2 years ago.
Justin described Mike as some other kid and acted like he barely knew him. Then he admitted he's known Mike for 2 years and that they even lived together. Slowly but surely, the detectives were using the teenagers' lies to get them to open up about what happened to Seth. Remember how Kyle talked to his mom about Seth's disappearance? Well, after his interrogation, the detectives brought him to his mom again, and watch what happens.
Both your kids are in a thing for murder.
Number 2?
Yep.
What do you mean?
What we told you was in the storm. I mean, it was like everything was planned.
Approach everybody?
Everybody.
Yeah. Kyle confessed on camera to first-degree murder and implicated all 5 people who were at Charlie's house that night.
We're gone.
Kyle even told his mom that his stepfather, James Haven III, was also guilty of aiding a fugitive. The detectives listened to this whole interaction. Of course, Kyle had no idea that they were being recorded. So, when he was brought back to the interrogation room, the detective had a lot more information to use against him and get to the bottom of the story.
And this is your one and only last chance to correct any discrepancies you may have of the story that you told me. Okay? Want to start fresh?
No. Man, I'm scared. I really am.
Kyle, I'm sure you are. Okay?
I've never been to. I don't want to go.
Kyle explained that he'd gotten into a fight with both of his parents that weekend. First, he fought with his dad, so he sold his laptop to get cash for a month's rent at Charlie's place. That's when he fought with his mom for making this decision, so he visited his stepfather James for emotional support. James then dropped him off at Charlie's house. That Sunday afternoon, another boy was visiting Charlie's house when Mike started overindulging in illegal substances.
And then Mike, he was like getting all into it. He went in the house. I guess he was doing some pills or whatever. He was.
What kind of pills was Mike smoking?
I'm not sure. They were white pills.
Where'd he get them?
There's no telling where he gets any of this stuff. I don't know. He don't tell me nothing.
Mike had taken upper pills that got him hyped up and even more aggressive than usual.
Somebody brought up the name Seth, and he's like, man, I want to go in and kill him midnight. He's like, I just want to. And he's like, you guys down? And I told him no. I told him I don't.
When he said you guys down, who's he talking to?
Like,
you and him?
Me, Amber, Charlie, Roach. Okay.
Who's Roach now?
The guy Justin Soto.
Oh, okay, so Soto was there.
By now, there were enough inconsistencies in the interrogation that the detectives could use the prisoner's dilemma tactic. That means they convince each suspect that everyone else is talking and therefore implicating them. They could choose to believe the detective and speak, or call the bluff and continue the lies, as a way to protect the group. But they're the only ones lying. They're easier to convict, as they'll take the blame from everyone else. Here's what happens when the detective tells Justin she knows he was at the crime scene.
Yeah. Wow, I know what happened to Seth. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, floor's yours.
Justin started talking about the events of April 17th, just like Kyle. Meanwhile, Kyle gave a huge clue into Seth's murder.
Pretty much because he was like, man, because he's like, all you gotta do is find him and get him on the way down here and everything like that. And he didn't want Amber to he didn't want Amber to call him off on the phone or text him. He didn't want nothing to have her or Charlie to have nothing to do with it.
This detail is crucial. Mike wanted to go on a killing spree that could have targeted Seth, but Mike didn't want to involve the girls. It was Amber's decision to lure Seth to his death. Amber came up with the plan to kill her ex.
Your brother told me everything. So you can sit there and you can continue to lie on me, walk out and treat you like a piece of garbage. Or you can sit here and treat me with the respect that I treated you with. Okay? And you can tell me the truth.
Yes.
What's your choice gonna be?
True.
But according to Amber, it was Mike that convinced her to lure Seth that night.
He was like, you should call Seth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, for what? He was like, act like you're gonna make up with him. And I was like, for what, Mike? He's like, because I'm gonna kill him. And I was like, why are you gonna do that? He's like, because I'm tired of him.
Amber shifted the blame onto Mike, but she confessed to premeditation. She believes she will look innocent as she just did Mike's bidding, but she doesn't realize that both she and Charlie were implicated in first-degree murder. Kyle, on the other hand, confessed to hating Seth for a long time.
I really hated Seth. And there was time, because my ex-girlfriend, I found him in the bed with my ex-girlfriend, and I really didn't like that, and I loved her. But I really didn't want to go out and kill the kid.
Kyle removed himself from the planning crew, but he also implicated Amber and Mike as equally guilty.
Well, Mike was talking about it, he's like, listen, he's like, I'll do it. And believe it or not, Amber wanted it done. Amber don't want nothing to do with him. Amber wanted him dead and gone. He deserved it.
Did he really believe the victim deserved to be killed? Is he really blaming Seth for all of this? Or is this just a desperate way to make him look less guilty? If Seth was a jerk to his sister, then maybe he had a right to hit him on the head with a stick. Apparently, Mike told everyone else that he would happily kill Seth if they didn't talk to anyone about it.
It's whatever. And Amber agreed to it. Everybody was agreeing to it.
So did Soto agree?
Huh?
Soto? Roach?
Everybody agreed.
He
Like I
agreed?
said, everybody agreed.
Amber agreed?
Mm-hmm. And
Charlie agreed?
Mm-hmm.
Why did the detective go through all the names one by one? Easy. Kyle now implicated all of them in first-degree murder. Indeed, it's not just the person who pulls the trigger that's responsible for it. If 4 other people are aware of what's going to happen and no one does anything about it, then they're just as guilty. Luckily for the police, Kyle didn't know this. He kept saying Mike agreed to take the blame for the action and they were just witnesses. Except, Kyle was more than just a bystander. When Mike said this is it, Kyle went over to Seth and hit him on the head.
Oh, I hit him over the stick, the head.
Where was Seth when you hit him?
He was in the chair,
Okay.
and I hit him over the head with the stick, and it broke 3 times on him.
Kyle's confession helped the other detectives implicate the teens.
At no time did you ever say, when Kyle hit Seth across the head with this stick, board, or whatever this object was, what the hell are you doing? What's going on? If you didn't know what was going on. You see the picture I'm painting now?
Now he had Charlie cornered. She couldn't convince him that she wasn't a part of the plan if she never tried to stop Kyle when he first attacked Seth.
If you and I are sitting in this room, and whomever's sitting over here, and I just start beating the hell out of him, aren't you gonna what's going on? You never said that. You know why? You know why?
Yeah.
Why?
So I knew something might have happened.
Exactly.
Seth's night was a horrible one. He might have expected Amber to jump him earlier in the neighborhood, but he never expected her and her terrible crew to kill him inside her friend's house. When Kyle hit him with the stick, he stood up, so Kyle hit him harder and harder until Seth couldn't react anymore. But he was fighting hard to survive. When Kyle's stick broke, Seth stood up once more and tried to run away, but Justin came in with another stick and hit him some more.
And then he was trying to go through the kitchen, and Mike shot him in the back twice with a gun.
But Mike didn't stop there. Everyone else got scared. The girls ran into Charlie's room, and the boys tried to pull him back. But Mike kept shooting Seth even when he was on the floor in a pool of blood.
And Roach grabs him like this, and Seth on the ground, and has him choked. And I don't know what he did to his knee, but he kind of messed up his knee, and Roach rolled over.
Who messed up his name?
A roach,
Okay.
Soto, and he rolled over, and Mike come up and in the head, and that's when it was over.
The terror was finally over for Seth, but for everyone else, this is where the horror began. They finally realized the gravity of what they had done, and they started panicking about the body.
Mike's like, man, grab him, you gotta grab him, Kyle. We can't have nobody, we gotta grab him. And I was scared, I was freaking out, and I'm like, okay.
The three boys picked up Seth and carried him up the stairs. Tragically, he was still breathing. Then the boys lay him down in the bathtub, and Mike went into another frenzy, punching and shooting Seth some more.
And then I come in, and then Mike's wanting to break it. I come in, and Mike's trying to break his kneecaps to put
Is
him
he
in a
dead at
hog
this
tie.
point, or is he
Yeah,
still?
he's completely dead.
And guess what? The girls weren't in the room all night. In fact, they went upstairs to see what the boys were doing to Seth's body. That's when Mike threatened them with his gun.
That's when Mike walked in the room with his gun in his hand. And he was like, I love you both, but if you say anything, I'll kill you both.
Then the three boys set out to clean the house and burn Seth's body. They stuffed Seth into a blue sleeping bag and carried him out into the backyard, where Justin had prepared a wood fire. By the way, that's how he got his scratches. Seth was dead and stuffed inside a bag, but Mike was still in a frenzy, hitting him with a shovel.
The guy's completely dead, and he's still hitting.
Just how much of Mike's behavior was dictated by the pills he'd taken, and how much is just his psychopathic personality. Either way, compared to the other people, he was getting a real kick out of all of it. The next morning, he went into the backyard to retrieve whatever remains were left after the fire.
We're just going around there. Mike's in the bag picking teeth from his skull and playing with his tongue. He's all sick and everything.
Yeah, there are really no words for Mike's behavior. After the Psycho Fest was over, Mike put Seth's remains into paint buckets. He weighed the buckets down with cinder blocks and threw them inside of a flooded quarry in Ocala, Florida. As soon as they got this information, the detectives sent out a team to retrieve Seth's remains. Indeed, most of them were inside the quarry, while some were still in Charlie's backyard. All 5 teens were charged with first-degree murder. 2 things were left to do. On the one hand, did they show any remorse for their actions?
What were you thinking about getting Seth up there?
I don't know, I wasn't thinking at the time.
Did you just hate Seth that bad?
I didn't hate him, I was hurt.
Just to get my life together. I was planning on going to the military and everything, but it's out of the picture now. Well,
Why-
my life pretty
Why
much is
didn't
out
you
of the
just, let me ask you this, you're telling me you wanted to get your life straight, this, that, the other.
picture. I don't like,
That's all. Because
I
if you
just
wanted to
don't
get
like-
your life straight, you know what you would have done? You would have not participated in this, and you would have called the cops and said, this is what's about to happen to this kid.
This is the sad twist. All of the teens complained that their life was over, and they all pointed their fingers at each other. But none of them showed actual remorse for Seth, and none of them ever attempted to stop Mike or call 911.
You know how many people are gonna hate us for this?
I hate my life.
This is our life now.
Oh my God.
Their self-pity almost goes as low as killing their former friend.
Yeah, but it's not our fault.
Hell, I don't even like the kind of people, and I'm one of them now.
I don't
And
know.
I didn't even do anything.
Yeah. Luring your ex-boyfriend to his death with a lie isn't anything. On the other hand, remember how there were 2 things left to do? Of course, the police had to arrest Mike Bargo. Throughout Sunday and Monday, Mike was with James Williams, his girlfriend's dad. James had been offering Mike shelter when Mike told him a version of the events from Sunday night.
He said, look, I got in an altercation in Ocala, the place I was living, got into a fight, and they threw me out of the house, and I needed a place to stay for a few days while things cooled down.
When James pressed him further, Mike said that Seth had violated Amber and he had to kill him, so he shot him 8 times. Apparently, that's when James convinced Mike to turn himself in. But before he could do that, the police surrounded James's house. He was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Amber, Charlie, Kyle, and Justin were sentenced to life in prison.
Lawyers in the Amber Wright trial agreed on a field of 8 jurors yesterday. Wright is facing charges in the 2011 death of her ex-boyfriend, Seth Jackson.
Mike Bargo was sentenced to death. Throughout his trial, he denied his guilt and was arrogant toward the prosecution.
Because isn't it true that Seth broke up with Amber because she found out that you two had slept together?
Not to my understanding. You want me to answer that?
You already did.
James Havens III was also charged with the illegal disposal of a body. He drove the crew to the quarry on Monday when they threw away Seth's remains. He was sentenced to up to 30 years in prison. To this day, every one of the teenagers is still in prison, but Charlie. In 2020, she appealed the sentence and took a guilty plea for second-degree murder, and she was freed in 2020. Meanwhile, Seth's family and everyone affected by the 5 teenagers will have to live with this horrible story and try to move on.
Words cannot describe the pain and suffering you have inflicted on our family.
But can you ever move on after something like this? Hey, thanks for watching. What do you think about this case? Let me know down in the comment section, and before you go, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. See you next time, and stay safe.